If you have bad credit, you know you're going to pay higher interest rates. The lower your credit score, the more you're going to end up paying for mortgages, car loans, and credit cards. On car loans, for instance, someone with terrible credit might end up with an interest rate that's more than twice as high as the interest rate for someone whose credit is perfect. Well, it turns out that America has a credit score too, and it just got a downgrade. The rating agency Moody's dropped America's credit rating from a sterling AAA to a less than perfect AA1. That's bad news for both the U.S. economy and for American consumers like you. America's credit rating is just like the credit score that you and I have as individuals. The lower the rating, the more it costs to borrow. The difference is that instead of borrowing from banks, the United States government borrows from the rest of the world, including from foreign creditors like China. To pay for Trump's tax cuts in his One Big Beautiful Bill, for instance, the United States government will have to borrow at least $3.4 trillion over the next 10 years, according to the Yale Budget Lab. But because of our downgraded credit, the interest rate on all that debt will be higher than it would have been if our nation's credit were better. The U.S. government borrows money by issuing treasury securities like saving bonds and 10-year treasury notes. They're basically just IOUs, where the government agrees to pay the amount of the bond when it's due. The interest rate on these bonds, or the yield, reflects the amount of risk associated with the debt. The bigger the risk, the higher the yield. The current interest rate on 10-year bonds issued by Russia, for instance, is 15%. That's because Russia is a risky investment. Unfortunately, more and more people think that America is a risky investment too. Over the last 5 years, the interest rate on our 10-year treasuries, or the yield, has been climbing steadily higher along with the national debt. In fact, the cost of borrowing has almost doubled since 2022. The higher cost of debt hurts America and Americans in 3 different ways. Number 1, higher interest rates on our national debt means spending more and more of the federal budget just on paying interest. It's like paying the minimum balance on your credit card. According to Moody's, federal interest payments are likely to absorb around 30% of revenue by 2025, up from about 18% in 2024 and 9% in 2021. This year, according to the Congressional Budget Office, interest payments alone will consume about 14% of the budget, or $952 billion. Just to put that in perspective, that's more than what the federal government spent on both Medicaid and food stamps last year. Money spent on interest also means less money for vital programs like Medicaid and food stamps, but also Medicare, as well as highways, schools, and national defense. Second, more money spent paying interest means more money going to foreign creditors. Other countries hold about a third of our national debt, according to the Congressional Budget Office. As of the end of March, that included more than $1 trillion held by Japan, $780 billion held by the United Kingdom, and $765 billion held by China. Higher interest rates means billions of dollars flowing overseas to finance tax cuts here in America for people who don't need it. Third, higher interest rates on the national debt means higher interest rates for you, the American consumer. Mortgage rates, for instance, are benchmarked to the interest rate for 10-year treasury bonds. Over the last couple of years, mortgage rates have climbed significantly, and in May, they even topped 7%. If you thought buying a home was already unaffordable, rising mortgage rates are only going to make things worse. The crisis of our national debt is a long-running bipartisan problem. We currently owe more than $36 trillion. That's why countries like Canada, Germany, Norway, and Singapore now have better credit ratings than we do. Fixing the nation's finances could mean some difficult choices in the future about what the federal government spends money on and the amount of taxes it needs to collect. Unfortunately, the GOP's tax and spending bill is only going to make those decisions harder. That's because Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill is simply one big ugly disaster for the U.S. economy. I'm Ann Kim, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe.